Hello, and welcome to Unsheathed with your hosts, Kyell and K.M. We hope that you enjoy the program. Please stick around afterwards. There'll be cake and blowjobs.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unsheathed number
69! Yes.
Dude.
Be excellent to each other.
Yes. We are live here at Further Confusion in the swanky Fairmont Hotel in San Jose. You all right there, Kit? All right.
It's a luxury hotel.
It is a luxury hotel, and we are a luxury convention.
Yes.
Not sure what that means.
I have my luxury grape beverage.
And I have my luxury beverage, which I'll describe a little later on in the podcast.
All right.
But for those of you who do not know, I'm Kyell Gold.
I am K.M. Hirosaki.
And we are joined by our very special guest, Dick Power.
What?
We had intended to also have Paul Kidd, the writing guest of honor. Due to unforeseen tragic circumstances, he was not able to attend the convention. And so we are sad that he won't make it here, but we're confident that we'll still be able to entertain y'all for like an hour and a half, 3 hours, however long you'll stay before you get bored. Our esteemed guest, Mr. Power, is not a furry, but in honor of this convention, we have procured him a fursona and a badge, which I'm presenting to you right now.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Oh.
He is a coyote.
I'm a coyote.
Yeah, Kyle, you're right. I think he is a coyote. Yeah, that's a good one. And now you know how you get a species.
Yes.
We hand it to you.
One has been chosen for you. Some people choose their species, others have it thrust upon them, right?
Over and over in some cases.
That was what, Kit, like a minute and a half? 2 minutes till we went there? Okay. We have been having a fabulous convention so far. This is personally my fifth panel of, I think, 10 maybe. And I've spent most of Friday morning signing copies of my book, which was awesome. Everybody, thank you, those who bought it. And I just really appreciate it. It's so fun to sit there and meet everybody in person and get the chance to watch the books flying off the shelves. The panels have all been great. The writing panels that we've done so far have been really well attended. I've been super surprised about that. Everybody seems really excited to learn about writing, which is amazing.
Yeah, you keep filling up rooms there.
I know.
Like, damn, like a full house. Like, especially, like, we have, what, like 600 people here right now?
I think at least, yeah. I think most of Further Confusion is here.
Well,
those who aren't at the dance.
The cool part.
Yes.
The ones who are still awake.
I was going to say, we appreciate the fact that you're here listening to us and not out partying on a Saturday night at a furry convention.
Right, or at a dance or any of the other multiple fun things you might be doing.
Yeah, this is my party.
And we especially appreciate the member of our audience who for such a long time has been promising to bring us gifts from the land down under. We also appreciate that none of those gifts was Vegemite. I have been given Australian Coke Zero, which is made with the exotic ingredients Flavor with a U and Color with a U, and which does not have 0 calories. I am surprised to learn.
What?
However, they do not call it Coke 1.8.
Wait, don't they use joules in Australia?
They do, actually. It is in, well, it's 8.4 kilojoules, but it's 1.8 calories. They also have calories on there.
Which is really a kilocalorie.
Right. But that confuses us poor Americans. And
Does anybody know what they're talking about?
Raise your hand if you're metric.
And
oh, wow.
And we also have wine, which I will let somebody who knows about wine talk about.
Yeah, so unlike poor Paul Kidd, something that did make it over from Australia in time for the con.
Oh.
No, that was so much to evoke sympathy, not ridicule. You're interpreting my jokes wrong. So,
Big thanks to Temba Cougar from Sydney for getting this over into the hands of TJ Full from the faraway mystical fantasy land of Cincinnati to me here. This is what is the actual name of it again? I was just looking at it. Yes, Millbrook Estate 2009 Shiraz. It is delicious, by the way. This will not survive the podcast. None of you all will get to try it because I'm drinking it all.
I'm amused that the motto underneath the logo of this particular wine is "In moderatione vinum."
No.
That's not a good way to sell wine.
Yeah, I guess most people don't speak Latin.
If I ever put out like a bottle of wine, like my motto would just be "Excelsior" with an exclamation point at the end.
By the way, I owe you this for the species thrust upon them comment.
Oh.
So. It
says, "I see what you did there."
Yes.
And
he
it's a
does.
fox, and it's a fox, and he sees what I did there.
Yes.
There.
That's the. Speaking of having furriness thrust upon you. Anyway, I will let Dick Power make his own introduction if he likes. We've referred to him in the past as a screenwriting teacher, a professional screenwriter. Basically, he's someone who knows a hell of a lot about movies, screenplays, writing. He has taught both of us, all three of us actually, in classes in the area here. And we're really, really excited that he has chosen to come and share some of his expertise with all of you as well. So, you want to talk a little bit about what you know about writing and how you learned it, or?
Oh, okay. So,
go for it.
First of all, I have to say this: I have no idea what I'm doing here, and I have no idea what the subject of this podcast is.
So you'll pick it. You'll pick it up.
There. What's that?
You'll pick it up.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay. We don't either.
And I think that might be one of the characteristics of a fox. Is this a fox?
Coyote.
A coyote. A coyote. So I was asking because my frame of reference is movies and screenwriting and story, and so this is my dinner at Ryan. Where's Ryan? There's Ryan. Ryan asked me. I'm sorry. Is that did I give it away? Is that the wrong name?
You just don't specify who he is, and we're good.
Okay.
Keep going.
Good. So he asked me what exposure I'd had to the furries, and I said, "You've witnessed it all." It started at dinner tonight, and this is and so then I started asking, what do these mean? How do you pick what animal you are, and what does that mean? Because if you're going to assign an animal to a character in a movie, that's got to mean something, and it means something about what their characteristics are, and that's going to tell you something that you're going to have an expectation had better get paid off later on in the story, because if it doesn't, you're going to feel disappointed. So I'm still trying to make this up because I haven't got a good answer to what is a coyote and what is a fox and what is a I don't know, what else is there? What are you?
A ferret.
A
ferret.
A ferret. I thought you said a fairy. I was like, yeah, okay. It's like, I'm totally hosed here.
You already know the crowd you're playing to, honey.
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
And I've played to this crowd more than once. Okay, so it does. After 58, really? I heard that 58's the new 57, but I think I'm the only one here that would know that. So,
the only one who'll confess to it anyway.
Yeah. Oh God. So my background is I did 22 years in show business, making a living in show business, 16 of them in Hollywood. I started out as an actor, and I ended up in producers and offices and studio offices, and I worked with screenwriters, and I fixed movie scripts is what I did for the most part. And then a few years ago, I discovered that I needed to teach screenwriting in order to make a living. So. Okay, wait, we're watching the wine being poured.
Sorry, Arthur Garfield just gave me some more wine.
For those of you who can't see, we're watching the wine being poured. Okay, we're watching it being smelled. Okay, nosed.
This is a different Syrah.
This is a different Syrah.
Yes.
Wow, you were right about
it has a bunny rabbit on the label.
You were right about the amount of wine you were going to get during this podcast.
I was.
Now,
Yes.
now we have to hear the verdict. What is it? What is the label?
It is, was it Rabbit Ridge? Is that what it is? Yes, Rabbit Ridge. It's Paso Robles, which is south of here for y'all who don't know where that is at.
And it's what? It's a Syrah?
Syrah, yes.
It's a Rabbit Ridge Syrah. And what is the... Tell us about it. What's the nose?
Well, it is, let's see.
Well, first let's hear
It is very fruit forward.
We have to hear about the legs. Tell us about the legs.
It's okay, so it's very fruit forward on the nose. There we go.
Okay. And the legs are the legs furry by any chance?
No. I'm getting a lot of blackberry on this.
Okay.
I'm giving you a note from
Is it
Kit
a blackberry finish or
No.
it's not oaky, is it?
You tell you what, I'll leave you in suspense
Okay.
and note of this being a writing podcast.
Okay. All right.
Here we go.
That's the report on the wine. Thank you very much.
Many years in Hollywood fixing scripts.
Many years in Hollywood fixing scripts, and then I ended up teaching it, and
That's how he met us.
that's how I met these guys. But what these guys don't know is how much I didn't know when I started teaching, and how much of it I was making up and I was going along, which is not really true. I stole it mostly from somebody else.
Actually, as I recall, you said in the first class, I don't really know what I'm talking about, so I'm just going to make this up as I go along.
Right. And that was just a sort of a sleight of hand thing.
Mr.
That was
Yeah, we
actually
thought
to
you- we thought
invite
it was
the
good.
assholes who thought they knew what they were talking about to challenge me so I could drive them out of the class. That was for.
I believe you also promised that you would ruin movies for us forever.
And did I?
Yes.
It's good to be a success. It feels good.
If at any point you hear us bitching on the podcast about some minor point about a movie that ruined it for us, we were like, well, we kind of liked that, but this twist felt unbelievable, and then I was unsatisfied at the end. This is why.
But I also taught you, I think, maybe, if you were there for... See, now here's the problem with when you get older. It's like, I'd find myself in front of class going, that movie with that guy in it,
Oh, that one.
And the chick, the guy and the chick, yeah, that one. It's like, fuck, my mind is gone. So what am I thinking of? Richard Gere, their pilots. What is it? No, Officer and a Gentleman. Officer and a Gentleman. So, Officer and a Gentleman is a really good example of once you've screwed up the structure of the entire movie and given all the wrong characteristics to all the wrong characters, and then you're at the end and you don't know what to do next. It's like you yank out the American flag and you play patriotic music really loud and really fast, and then run the credits. So I think I taught you that too.
Yes.
That's very similar to the strong bad "it's over" approach.
I believe we ended one podcast by whipping out the flag and running off to end credits that way because we didn't know what to do with it. No.
That's only in the podcast fan fiction. Which, if it's out there, don't send it to me.
Flag did it have stripes or flag?
Well, I don't know. Yours would be like white with the red circle.
No, yeah, I get the Rising Sun paw print on my Hachimaki.
I understood like most of those words. Honestly, I'm not sure that's something you should be discussing on an audio podcast. You need to have that on video somewhere.
Okay, so my big online avatar for a while has me wearing one of those like Japanese bandanas. They're called hachimakis, and like they used to have those in like the World War II propaganda where you have like the rising sun in the middle, and then it would say like things like victory or whatever on it. And like mine just has like my name Hirosaki, but instead of like the red circle, it's a red paw print. Because
I like my
that.
translation better when I don't know what a word means. I just
We're
change it
writers.
into
We're
something
supposed
else.
to teach people what words mean.
But we're also supposed to make up things when we don't know what's going on. Right?
Right.
Okay.
But I already know. I
I
can't sit
didn't.
here in willful ignorance of you.
So I have to. I'm sorry. This is so scintillating. You guys are.
I know.
Keeping me awake. But I have to figure. What are all these people doing here? Who are they?
We have yet to figure that out. These guys. So we write books. Some of them are here for the cupcakes.
Okay.
Some of them are here because they've read the stories that we've written and are fans of them.
Okay.
And
Some of them are here to watch me drink wine and eventually say stupider and stupider things.
Oh, we got
Yeah,
two hands on that one. There we go.
Ain't no shame in it, y'all.
I think many of them are here to learn a little bit about writing their own stories.
Oh, okay.
That is at least why I hope some of them are here, so that they can ask us questions to talk about, because the only other thing that I had to talk about was to have the three of us discuss why movies are a good place to start when you're trying to learn about storytelling.
Oh.
Which has been a theme that's come up a lot this con so far.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think in one of the writing panels earlier, someone said that they felt bad for bringing up movies every time we were trying to make a point or make examples about stories, but movies are actually much more the currency of stories in this day and age. And I think I made the point that if I were trying to figure out a book example to use that I could be confident most of the people in the room had read, I think my list would be Harry Potter, and then I don't know where I'd go after that. But movies, we could rattle off 10 or 15 movies that I'm fairly sure everyone in the room has seen. So it's much easier to find examples from them.
Translation: Yes, K.M. Hirosaki, you can keep using Star Wars as an example for things.
But only the movies and not the books.
Aw, you made Timothy Zahn sad.
Or the role playing, did somebody say?
Yeah.
That's a whole other.
No, there's other podcasts that talk about that.
Yes. So one of the things that we talk about a lot is that movies are a good place to start when trying to learn about storytelling, because they're necessarily stripped down, compressed, and efficient when they're done well. As opposed to when you have a novel, you have a lot more time to play. Nobody's telling you it has to be 120 pages, or, if you're Aaron Sorkin, 160. But that's how long the Social Network screenplay was, apparently. But with a screenplay, you have to get the storytelling down to the bare elements, and you have to make sure that the reader's engaged the whole way. I don't know. What would you?
Okay, so if you're the author of a story, then author is that's the same. It's the root word of authority. That means you're authority. And what that means to me is the author and the reader or the watcher have a pact between you, and the agreement is that you as the author will tell a story, and you're not going to let the reader down. The reader says, okay, I'll believe you, and I'll give you a certain amount of time to prove your case, and if it's that you won't let me down. So as the author, as the authority is this story, what that means is that you have control of all of the facts and of the world that you're going to introduce your reader to, and all of everything that's happening in there. But what it really means underneath is that you're going to manage and direct the emotions of the reader or the watcher to a conclusion that you've chosen for them. It's all about the emotional experience in the movies. And anytime you look in the newspaper or online, wherever you look to decide what movie you're going to watch, what you're deciding is how you want to feel at the end of that movie. And at least that's what I do. And that's how this is what I ran through, this was the theme that ran through my whole career in Hollywood, was how's it going to make people feel? And then you break that down into each piece of the story, and how does that make people feel? So it's an emotional journey that you're offering to somebody, and I don't see any difference between that and a written story.
Yeah, you don't sit down and watch Schindler's List because you want to feel happy.
Exactly.
But, I mean, that doesn't mean that it's not enjoyable to watch on a level.
You can, but you will be unsuccessful.
Or you're a horrible person.
Right. Yeah. So, but that's what you're offering also when you're writing any kind of a story. If you want somebody to turn the page, or keep watching your movie, you have to make them ask questions. And the questions you want them asking are, what's happening? That keeps people engaged. What does this mean? What are they doing? I hate when I'm watching a movie. I can't tell what a guy's doing, but I can't stop watching. So, right? It's like, what does it mean? And if you let me down so that you never explain what's happening, then, then I'm the guy walking out going, I could have written something better than that, and then you're going to walk into my class and I'm going to prove to you that you can't write something better than that. But,
And if you demand enough times, you will tell them outright. That
yeah, well,
I will set up dreams for you to have, and then I will crush them.
Wait, you're writing Inception?
Oh. Wait, hold on.
I see what you did there back.
okay, but I want you guys to see what's happening here. What's happening here is a status, this little status battle, right? You see what they're doing? They're going, all right, I remember that day in class.
Yeah.
So that's what dialogue is all about. Dialogue is all about this jockeying position for status, and it's either one character trying to raise his own status, or lower the other person's status, or even raise the other person's status and raise their own status that way. So what just happened here was this whole status thing where who won?
Yeah.
The drunk?
I'm on top now. Now my status is even higher.
So, but the price he's paying to get his status higher is that he's getting stupider and stupider. So this is like the perfect thing you want to have happen in a movie, right? Because how long can he maintain that status as Kyle just waits him out, right?
Yeah, this story always ends the same way.
Always gets his revenge somehow.
I believe
See,
it
So I
always.
don't know this story. See,
It always comes back to, hey, remember Unsheathed presents number 4? I'm like,
I wasn't going to bring that one up. Just glad it's indelibly printed on your memory.
and to the memories of all our listeners,
Yes.
forever may it be so.
So that's the first question you want. What the hell is they doing? What's
Yes.
happening? So then the next question is, what's the next question? What makes you turn the page? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? So, what the amateur writers do, and not even the amateurs, but the professionals do in their first draft, is they tell you the whole story right up front, and like the log line is all this backstory, and it's all, it's the whole story. And what you end up having to do, and it's really painful sometimes, and sometimes especially with professional screenwriters who maybe have written a couple of $100 million movies, and have been really successful, is how do you tell them that, what they're telling you in the first act belongs in the third act, and that the journey is for the main character to, what we want to do is see the main character actually learn that, so that instead of putting it in the front, you have to put it in the end, and you have to make your main character sweat it out.
It's kind of like to go back to K.M.'s favorite movie, if in Star Wars, when Luke and Obi-Wan are deciding to get off planet, Luke says, I think the whole Galactic Empire struggle is much more important than my silly dreams, so let's forget this smuggler and let's go sign up with the rebellion right away, and I'm going to become a pilot and attack the Death Star.
Right.
And they would have killed Princess Leia.
Go ahead.
So actually,
Come on, I gave you the lead-in with Star
I was
Wars
actually
there.
going to say that the way he just described, how do you tell somebody who's written a few $100 million movies? I hear a lot of people, and we've mentioned this in the show before, I'm sure. A lot of people sort of like diss Avatar for having this the story is really straightforward and predictable, but the way that the act structure of that movie plays out is actually really well done. It's very well handled. I mean, it doesn't miss the beats. It puts everything where it needs to be, and I think very few people are lost when it comes to that story, even though it is in this fantastical setting where it teaches you all these new rules right from the very first minute of the movie.
It's I think what we ended up saying coming out of Avatar, which we probably said on the podcast, was that it's not a complex story, but it's told very effectively.
Yeah.
So does anybody know what other big movie had that same plot? Which one? Well, I can't. I cannot hear you. What did you say? Don't make fun of the deaf people. Which one?
What other?
Dances with Wolves. It was exact. What did you say?
Pocahontas.
Pocahontas. I didn't see
Pocahontas.
that. But it's exactly Dances with Wolves, right? It's exactly that. So when you're Jim Cameron and what you really care about is, this big technology and taking 6 trips down to the Titanic, and it's like one of the reasons I went into the movie business, and most people go into the movie business, is so that you can do stuff that you don't get to do when you're just a regular schmo. So Jim Cameron gets to go down to the Titanic 6 times, and then he puts out this crappy. Does anybody like that movie, Titanic? Did anybody see it? which is probably a good indication that it is the lowest common denominator, right?
Right.
But it's also a good indication that it hits all the emotional beats that everybody wants. It did something for a lot of people, but it was all the my wife, who's not a literature person, she's a scientist, for God's sakes, and we're watching that movie, and right in the middle of it, she says, "Is this like an acting class scene or what?" Because the acting was so horrible, And Stanley Kubrick also, if you look at his later movies, the acting was like the last thing on his mind. He didn't care who was in the movie. He didn't care what they were doing. He cared about the technology of the lenses and the lighting and all of this stuff. So I actually give Jim Cameron a lot of credit in Avatar for picking a story that everybody knew already worked.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody complained about it, but also everybody went, didn't they?
Yeah.
More than once in most cases.
And I will say about Titanic that the first time I saw it, I was very caught up in the effects. I was caught up in the story. I enjoyed the movie the first time. I saw it a second time, and I thought, did they change the dialogue? Because this dialogue is terrible. And I could not believe that when I was going back and paying attention to what they were actually saying, that it was the same movie. And you get caught up in the epic sweep of the story. And if you're...
and it's all building up to that moment when that ship goes down, which was... amazing.
And there were beautiful...
Really?
And we had... Nice little status exchange there, too.
Was it?
I think so. I think you did. Wow. But I don't know what that means.
That means you're sucking up to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Like when you're talking there about going back to rewatch Titanic, and I'm reminded of the last time I rewatched Big Trouble in Little China, and I'm like, I wish I hadn't done that. This movie was better in my memory.
Yeah, and I can't do that with Disney's Robin Hood, sadly.
Oh yeah, don't. Just look at the cover.
I put it on mute and then.
Yeah, it's like, oh look, he's hopping around.
Yeah. But.
Priorities, people.
It's kind of interesting that you bring that up about going into movies, because on a smaller scale, I think that's why all these people here come to conventions like this, is to get a chance to step outside the normal world for a little while. We have a Fox bag there with is it steampunk goggles? I can't see real well. And we had...
What am I again?
We had... You're a coyote.
Thank you.
We had... But see, that's the personality of the coyote, to sort of always kind of play dumb while plotting something behind people's backs.
And then laugh at their misfortune.
And then laugh at, yes. We had a blue and
See, now
black
he's getting it.
striped cat person. But that's kind of why, on a smaller scale, everybody comes here to, and why people read books to escape and be able to experience that outside world. And why people write books is a chance to create worlds for other people to live in like that.
So how many people here are like writing a novel as you're living? Like the novel of your life? Yeah, you're the only one. There's only 2 people who would admit it. But yeah, there they are.
How many
right?
people are writing a novel they wish they were living?
Right. So we're telling stories like all day long. And if you go to any high school in America, here's a story you'll hear. It was like, and then it's like, I don't like, it was like, I hate it, man. And then the other one goes, oh, dude. This is a story. This is not really good storytelling, but people are telling stories all day long, and commercial people are the ones who've learned how to capture a story in like 3 images, one image, just a little child running up to Grandpa. You know as well as I do. Grandpa smells bad, and he does bad things to the little child, but No, actually, you missed a generation. I am a grandpa.
Which is okay.
And just because you buried the memory doesn't mean your grandpa didn't do it. Now, tell me. Thank you. So now you understand why I explained to you about status, because I want status and I just got some. And it doesn't do a lot of good to get some if you don't know it. So there we go.
There you go.
There we go.
This is the best episode ever.
You say that every time.
Sorry, I'm sorry. My wife is asking me in text where I am. So I've sent her some pictures of all of you, and she wants me to come home right now.
That's Kit's advice.
Oh, really?
Yes.
About what? Everything?
Everything.
Okay. Deny it.
Advice, run away while you can.
Lie. He tells me to lie.
Passing the wine down again. So, Cam, what is this other thing in front of you here, by the way, while we're taking a break to refresh you?
So, TJ also brought me this little wine bottle holder. He says it's a kitschy tourist thing, but it's actually kind of cool. It's got a kangaroo on it because it's all bouncy. And,
That's to put in it.
Yes, so I'll show you how this works. With my Wolambi
It holds the wine bottle. Is that how it works?
It does have my name on it.
Put the bottle in the bowl.
So it does. Yep, I'm good at that. Like so.
Does this remind you of Grandpa? No.
I just think like Martha Stewart would be so proud of this.
That I believe is how the Aborigines used to hold their wine bottles.
Yeah, which they got,
Yes. Right, exactly.
Shiraz wasn't really in vogue back then. They were more into Merlot. I'm going to take a picture.
Okay. So I want to ask if any of the people out there have questions about writing or about movies.
And if you have any answers, for God's sakes, please.
Or about answers. If
Hold
any of
it
you
till
have
the end.
perspective to tell Dick here what all this weird furry stuff is about, why don't you there's a microphone right up here
That
in the
was the
center.
first one. Oh.
So if you...
Stand up.
Oh, right, it's a podcast.
Stand up.
Yeah, we have to be able to hear you also.
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Power. My name is Buck Turner. I actually edit stories.
Which is also a great name that goes with Dick Power, I think.
Why, thank you. Thank you. It was not an accident. I actually edit stories to publish for the people in this crowd, and so I would love to hear, as somebody who has presumably in classes read a lot of screenplays and given a lot of feedback, how you would encourage people to improve, but not damage the ego at the same time.
Best of luck with this elsewhere. I'm sorry. I was supposed to lie. So
wait, you mean that isn't?
So I got some. I did. I read tens of thousands of screenplays, and I responded to most of them. So the letter. Here's how the letter goes. Dear Buck, thank you for submitting my life as a snowflake. No. I particularly liked the part where you and your mother went to Disneyland. Unfortunately, this story doesn't fit into our slate. Best of luck with this elsewhere. And then I would sign it and I'd send it off. So, some poor schmuck sent me a script with 32 of these rejection letters. And he said, look, everybody in Hollywood loves my script.
That's so sad.
That was me.
I knew that.
I'm crushed now.
I knew that. That's right, it was Kyell. So, how do you do it? You tell them what you liked about it. You always tell a writer what you liked about it. Writers, I don't care. Every writer I ever met said, yeah, just give it to me. Just tell me. Yeah, I can take it. No, you can't. The last thing you can do is take criticism. And there's a great article online somewhere that says, no, I can't read your fucking screenplay. Does everybody know that article?
Oh, I've read that.
Oh, yeah.
Seen that?
I think I've
yeah.
portions of it.
That's my
Lots of
life.
places.
What it says is, if I read your screenplay for free, you're going to argue with me when I tell you what I think. And then, you know, I'm already in the hole because I've read it for free. Now I'm arguing with you? You know, shut the fuck up. You know, or don't ask me. Or just don't ask, because every writer's going to want to defend. As soon as you tell them what's wrong with their script, they're going to want to defend it, they're going to want to explain it. And then I have to go back and say, look, all I can tell you is you didn't make me feel what I needed to feel at that point so that I could get to the next point and feel what I needed to feel and feel what I needed to feel. And so most writers aren't going to believe you is the first thing you probably need to know. They're not going to believe you. And but you need to but you need to, you know, okay. So we had a script that was about the Coast Guard against the drug dealers. This was a really sort of unique sort of story in Florida. Yeah, it was like, you know, drug dealers and cops, right? Okay, so the guy this was one of the $100 million movie guys who'd written a couple of really successful pictures, which I won't tell you what they were. But he also had the best pot I had ever smoked. Okay. So I loved when he came to town. But the way he sold the script, because we had another guy write it, and then this guy came in. God, let me give him a name. Christopher Savage. That was the other name I was going to use tonight, but I used Dick Power instead. Okay, so Christopher, the way this other guy wrote the script, the way he sold it was he said I heard you say earlier in the panel right before this about how you're creating visuals for your readers, and that's exactly what of course in the movies that's exactly what you're doing. But so this is how he sold it. He said, we're in a big hotel. There's all these rich people. There's all these beautiful women. There's senators. There's congressmen. There's people, powerful rich people swirling around this one guy, and they're all swirling around this one guy. And someone comes up and whispers something in his ear. And he excuses himself. And he walks out and he gets in the back of a limo. The limo takes off and it drives out into this really dark place. It's totally dark. It's just this field, this dark field, and it's night, and it stops, and the door opens, and he gets out, and as soon as it stops, 2 rows of blue lights go pop, 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 and just light up, and he gets out of and as soon as they light up, you see this little light up in the sky, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's a plane, and it lands right here, and it stops right here in front of his nose. And they went, "That's great. You're hired. You're hired." And he turned the script in, and that scene wasn't in the script. And that was supposed to be the opening of this movie. The opening of the movie was a guy who was in a crack house in New York, and he didn't have any more money, and they kicked him out. So he finds an old man walking his dog on the street, and he pulls a gun, and he says, "Give me your money," and the dog barks, and he shoots the dog, and then the man, complains, and he shoots the man, and takes his watch and his wallet and runs off. So my comment was, because I didn't really know how to do this yet, my comment was, this is why my producer didn't let me talk to the writers yet. My comment was, I think I saw this last night on Kojak.
Wow.
And the studio said, "We love this scene. We want you to take out the part where he shoots the dog. So he rewrote the scene, and he took that part out. Then they said, we love this scene. We just want you to take out the part where he shoots the man. And they just kept walking him back until he said, I fucking hate this scene. I'm so sick of this scene. And he threw it out.
Which was what they wanted to begin with.
Which is what they wanted to begin with. But that's how you handle, not only, he has a writer's ego, right? Like all the writers in this room, even though you say you don't, even though he says he didn't, he had a writer's ego.
I never said that.
Plus $100 million, right? So I don't know if that helps. Does that help?
It does. Yeah. Yeah, very, very helpful.
I would say too. I would ask from a writer's perspective, how do you take a rejection letter like that and apply it to improve your work?
How do you do that?
I send it
Because I gave you criticism in class. How did you apply that?
Well, you didn't say best of luck with this elsewhere.
No, I didn't.
Go take another class. No, I think what I try to do when I'm editing and giving feedback to people that I want to continue a relationship with, like a $100 million screenplay writer who I've never worked with, although, no. But I think the important takeaway is the first thing you said, which is tell them something that you liked about what they wrote, and be sure that there is something that you liked about what they wrote. Because if there's nothing that you liked about it, then why are you even doing anything with them?
Right.
And again, focusing on this is how I felt from this story, and I don't think that's what you were going for. Can you be more clear about what you wanted to accomplish, or at least, tell me if this is right? Because I've written back to authors and said, I don't think this is what you were going for, because this was my takeaway from this story, and I think you were kind of going for something more like this, and it didn't quite work. And he was like, no, I wasn't going for either one of those things. I was going for this other different thing over here, and it was supposed to be this totally different thing. I was like, okay, you're not doing that either. But then you try to pinpoint why, and if you as the editor have a lot of experience in why certain things work and why certain things don't, then you can give them kind of a nudge in the right direction and say, I felt like I don't understand what this homeless crack addict has to do with the Coast Guard. I think that needs to be more clear early on, because the Coast Guard comes out of nowhere later, or...
So thank you for talking for a while so I could think.
What I'm here for.
Because here's where I usually go, and is just to ask the simple question: what is this story about? The hardest thing for a writer to do usually at the beginning, when you've just written your first draft, or you're just about to write your first draft, is to tell you what it's about. Tell me what it's about in one line, and that's what I do in my class. That's the first thing I have people do. And it usually takes about 3 weeks to get a story down into 1 or 2 lines, because it's really hard. By the way, did I mention writing is really hard? Right? It's not easy, and we can talking about it's really easy, and it's really fun, and bagging on writers is really easy,
and also really fun.
And also really fun. Thank you. That was the way I was setting you up.
Yeah.
Where were you? Come on.
He beat me to the punch.
God, see what happens? It's the wine.
He's the quick red fox. I'm the lazy brown
which
otter.
explains where the animal characters come in.
Oh.
The fox is quick, and the
he's-
otter
what
is
is he
more...
again?
He's an otter.
Oh, shit.
So the
he
otters are
lied
more
to me.
about...
Don't tell me you were an otter.
You didn't know.
You're a Japanese otter?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are there Japanese otters?
Yes.
Did he make that up?
No.
Do they play poker?
No, they play like, what's the name of that game?
Go?
No. There's like a Japanese card game. Not Baccarat. No.
As a James Bond fan, there you go.
Japanese otters from Monte Carlo, maybe, but...
No, I'm a classy otter. I play in Macau.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
So when you go to what is this story about and trying to crystallize that into a certain, a lot of times, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm writing, I have to write I might have to write a lot of crap before I get that crap out of the way, so I can get to the part that I actually started the story I started to tell. So,
Yep.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
How are we doing? Is everybody? You're next. What would you like to do? Wow, he wrote it down. Fuck.
I know. He's more prepared than we are here.
Oh man, it's one of these people.
I'm outlining.
He's also the one that brought the beverages, so
Okay.
we owe him something.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay, thank you for coming.
You're very
I'm
welcome.
sorry. Good luck with that elsewhere. I hate to do that to you. I really apologize, but I'm just a dick. You can call me Dick. Okay.
Anyway, I generally write novels and like narrative literature, more of that kind of writing. But I was recently approached by an artist, and we talked about perhaps maybe me being the writer end of on working on a graphic novel, and I sat down to think about it. Essentially, what the writer hands an artist, in the process of creating a graphic novel, is very much a screenplay when you boil it down. So I was wondering, since you were here, I decided to go ahead and ask you, have you ever been involved in taking a script, once you're happy with a script that you've created, and then moving towards a storyboarding process, or working with another group of people that have their own creative aims, and very true, and creating something visual out of something that you wrote down on paper.
So movies are probably the most collaborative art form, and everybody. So you were saying, somebody sends you something they've written, and you read it, and you see something in it, and you say, "What were you trying to get to?" And they say something completely different. Well, that's what the movies are all about. Everybody who reads a screenplay reads a different movie. And the hardest part is to get it to the next level, which is for everyone to agree that it gets to storyboarding, scheduling, committing it to film. Most people in Hollywood aren't there to actually expose film, I found out. I don't know what... I used to think I knew what most of them were doing there, but... yes, I have been involved in sort of every phase of that. And what are they asking you to do? Do they want you to structure this story, or
essentially? I have a framework on what the subject matter very loosely might be.
Yeah.
I won't say what it is.
No, that's okay. No, because the rules are always the same.
But
because we're all, everybody here is educated by the same TV that I was educated by about what a story is and what to expect in a story. So
essentially, I'm handed the basic subject matter, and
basic is a character.
I was told essentially set up two characters that will interact, something like this. It might the story might be about two brothers. I'll give a random example. And basically, using that framework, he said, create any story that you like.
So here's what you need. You have to figure out who's the main character. Make it the most fascinating character. If it's not fascinating to you, then I'm not going to give a shit. And you have to give me a reason to care about this character. And one of the reasons I care about this character is because he wants something. So you got to give him a desire. And once he has a desire, yes, what's next?
He has to have an obstacle or an opponent.
An opponent, yes. He has to have somebody else who wants him to not have that or wants the same thing. And once the opponent pops into view, then your main character needs a plan to get around the opponent and get what he wants. But if the plan works, you don't have a movie. In fact, all the stories you told all day today were about your plan and how it didn't work. I wanted to get this job and that bitch... that's the whole story, right?
Amen.
Amen. So, what I've just walked you through, if you know who John Truby is, it's his 7 steps. But what's most important, probably, in terms of a story that makes people care, is that your main character needs to learn something, and he doesn't know that at the beginning, and he learns it at the end. And all the way through, you're hoping that he learns that, because if he learns that, he's going to have a better life. That's what makes us care about a character. Now, there's that inverse, where you have the anti-hero who hates everybody and
never learns anything.
And never learns anything, and you hate everybody, and that's why you like him. And, you're going to have to go study with somebody else, because I'm a Hollywood guy. Yeah.
Thank
Did that
you very
help?
much. Yes.
Okay.
Good everyone, it's Candrel.
Hey, it's
Good
Candrel.
evening,
It wouldn't-
Sheathers.
It wouldn't be an Unsheathed podcast without a Candrel question.
Well, I am your fantasy philatist.
Wow.
Fantasy.
And
what?
Nice.
Let me see if I can get my name right. I'm Candrel.
Candrel.
Are you like the brother of Jor-El, uncle of Kal-El?
Now, I do have a question for you guys, actually, here. If personal experience shapes the way that an author writes and the way that they compose their stories, how has hosting this podcast changed the way that you guys write? And to include the guest here, for Dick, how has teaching
You
Muppets...
can call me Richard. See, I set that up a long time ago, right? You were
Yes.
waiting for the payoff. You were waiting. What's the fucking punchline here? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
How has teaching Muppets like these guys changed the way that you view stories that are put in front of you? It changed the way that you actually edit the things that come to you.
So you got the first question. How's this changed the way you...
I've actually gotten a lot more feedback from listeners after doing this show than I ever did before. And it's actually been a really fascinating insight into my reader base. I actually got a comment from a reader and a listener a couple of weeks ago, over the holiday break, where he informed me, he's like, "Hey, I've read a bunch of your stories, and I'm honestly not sure if I like your writing or not." not. It's like
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think ? And it's like. And he said, it's not because I don't think the writing is good. I just don't know if I enjoy reading your stories. And I'm like, well, at least you know why you don't like them in that case. It's not like, this is crappily written. Just, I don't want to read about this. And this got into the whole, all your stories are sad, which is not true. I'm trying to stress this. I'm changing my image. And now that I'm in the public eye, I have an image change. Because anyone who knows me knows that I'm not a depressing and sad and mopey person.
No, you're a playful otter.
Yeah. Otter bark. No.
Oh, you went and did that.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, Dick. But no. I think that having more of a
police in the back.
Yeah.
These look official, like they're here to arrest us.
I
hope
think
not.
I think that being part of a show has given me more of a rapport with my fan base, and having a better understanding of who's reading my stuff gives me a better example of what sort of things they want to see and how I can better reach them. And I think that it's only been a positive thing for me.
Well, my first off-the-cuff answer to that was I have about 2 hours a week less to write. But that's not completely fair. It's true, but it's not completely fair.
I was just going to squander those 2 hours anyway.
Not going to make a comment about Star Wars. The truth is that the questions that we get in from the listeners are varied and interesting enough that they make me think about and return to a lot of the fundamentals of writing on a regular basis. And in the projects that I'm working on, I will often sort of catch myself and say, someone writes in a question about, not the time travel masturbation questions, but but more the, how do you structure a narrative from, third person as opposed to first person? And I'll think a lot about that, and we'll have a discussion on the show about, these are the tricks you can do with tight third person. I'm thinking, I'm writing a tight third person story. Why am I not using those tricks? And then I can apply that in the writing that I do. So it's been one of the things that I've learned over the years is if you really want to understand something well, try teaching it to somebody else, because you can read the books and absorb the lessons, but until you have to understand it well enough to be able to convey that concept to somebody else, you don't understand it as well as you could. And so having the show where people ask us about writing and force us to think about a lot of these issues has been really helpful to me in that regard. So thank all of you who send in questions and continue to do so. Unsheathedpodcast@gmail.com.
I will also say real quick before I pass this over, the other thing about getting all these questions from our listeners and the people who read our stuff is I've realized that Kyell and I are never going to run out of stuff to talk about when it comes to writing.
Oh, good Lord, no.
Yeah, I mean, it's
when we first started this, we were like, yeah, let's sit down for a month and maybe every weekend we'll talk about writing and then we'll be done.
Yeah.
And
well, that's writing.
Yeah, and
there you go.
That was what, a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
Something
just
like
about,
that.
actually. Wow. Gray muzzle alert.
Well, of course it is. You're over 30.
Yeah. Thanks, MFF.
We're still not letting that one
For
go.
those of you who don't know, like if you're here and you're not a regular listener, Midwest Fur Fest had on their programming panel, it was the Gray Muzzle meet and greet, and the description is like, for you furs over 30. And I'm like, like, I know I'm gay, but my life doesn't end at 30.
So I think
30 is the new 22.
The interesting thing there is that we didn't explain that, gray muzzle is our term for older people, but
It's actually a good one.
up.
I got it right away.
You got it right away.
You see what we did there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so your half of the question.
I'm not sure what the question is.
How has your writing
old,
been changed how has your writing been changed by teaching other people?
Oh God! So first, before I do that, I just want to thank you for asking questions. Thank you for participating in this because this is really a gas, and thank all of you guys for being here. Because I'm a prick, and I like to make fun of people and humiliate them in public, and so
I'm used to it by now.
I was going to say,
and you're the best, and you're the best ones to aim at. So. But just in a moment of like uncharacteristic generosity, I thought I'd thank you for being here. So when I left Hollywood, I don't want to go into the whole story. Do I have to go into the whole story?
No,
I had a.
But now you've made them curious.
Yeah, I have made them curious.
If you want to hear the whole story, stick around after the podcast.
What is happening and what's going to happen and what happened? That's the other question, that you're making your audience ask is, what happened? What happened that makes these characters do these things now that he needs to, go get that thing to fix? What is he trying to fix? That's the ghost in the story? And the ghost in the story is whatever event happened before the story that we're watching, before that took place, that is still haunting the main character. And hopefully, if you've studied writing at all, what your story is about is your main character working out what happened in the past and facing those fears. So that's actually the answer to your question, which is when I left Hollywood, I left because I had a personal tragedy and my life blew up. And so in Hollywood, they will forgive you for being a drug addict. We know that, or there's all kinds of crimes they forgive you for. What they don't forgive you for is desperation. And I was desperate, and because of that, everyone stopped returning my calls because they don't want you to get any on them, And because everybody's desperate. Everybody's desperate. Every day you show up, you're like, this might be the last day I work in Hollywood. So okay. So when I left Hollywood, I was I had the feeling that all those years were for naught, and that I really didn't learn anything, and I didn't know anything, and I certainly didn't know anything that I'd learned there that would be of any use in the civilian world, and. Teaching this class, what I found out teaching this class was that I did know something, and I knew something really well. And as I was putting together my first class, and I'm blowing my mind, right, because I'm like, these people are paying money, and they're expecting somebody who knows something. And I kept saying to my wife, because I'm putting this class together, I'm putting these principles of writing together, and I kept saying, but doesn't everybody know this?
No.
And she said, no, I don't know this. I forgot that I'd already ruined watching movies and TV for her. But the way I ruined it for her was, it'd be a TV show, and I'd go, oh, wow, that's the Paramount lot. That's right down from where my office was. Sorry, I was watching. I thought it was Hawaii, and I'm sorry.
Oh, you fool.
I'm sorry. So you know what it did for me, teaching? It restored who I was, and who I wanted to be. There's this great line there's a lot of great lines in The Great Gatsby, and if you haven't read that book, maybe you will now. I don't know. Nick Carraway has a number of places where he describes Daisy's voice, and the payoff ultimately is when Gatsby he's talking to Gatsby about Daisy's voice, and he says her voice, it's so full of, and Gatsby says money, which is like the theme of the whole story. But before that, the time before that, when he mentions her voice, he says the way she talks to you, it's like she sees the person in you that you always hope to be. And most of us, I don't know what your experience going through every day is. Mine is predominantly an experience of failure, because I can't get the drivers on the road to do what I want them to do. And I get to work, and that bitch. And, it's like, and today was a great example of that. It's like the internet wasn't working, and I called, and Comcast wasn't answering, and it's like, it's just failure upon failure, and my mother-in-law's been at our house since December 4th, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you very much. It's just an extra person in the house. She's lovely, and I really do love her. But it's that extra. So that all that failure, and then you add, as you grow, things happen in life, and then personal tragedy, and then this that career went away, and then
oh God, animal people.
And I stopped taking acid when I was 17.
Sorry for the flashback.
Yeah, and here I am. So I'm sorry for, I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's exactly what he said. It's, if you want to find out what you know, try to teach somebody else, try to explain it to somebody else. And what I found out is, what I found out again is how much I love writing, how passionate I am about it, how passionate I am about good writing, and how passionate I am about handing that key over to other people. So that's what I got.
Okay, thanks for the 69 episodes so far, guys. Looking forward to more.
Thank you. We're looking forward to many more questions.
Hello, Mr. Power. I actually do a lot of screenwriting, and like a lot of people at this particular kind of convention, I'm also an artist. And I've done a lot of reading.
Who have you read?
No, are you talking about like screenwriting books and so
sure.
on? Quite a lot. I can't think of off the top of my head right now. But
that's the deficit basic, right there. You need to know who you've read and what they said. Okay,
really?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I call it natural-born teachers. Where I just can't help it. Anybody. You educate people against their will. That's a natural-born teacher. So I apologize. Go ahead.
That's all right. The general consensus from what I've read is that it's sort of inappropriate in a submission process to enclose any type of concept art or
don't put any art.
Or anything like
That's
that.
Loser, man. As soon as I see art, it's like, oh, there's a loser. Good. Oh, thanks for sending the art. Now I know your script sucks, and I don't have to spend any time on it.
So I'm just curious from your perspective why that might be the case, or in what scenarios it might be
because
appropriate.
If you're spending time on the art, then you're not spending time on the structure of your script. And the first problem everybody in Hollywood has with a script is probably the story. That's either, derivative or repetitive or just not there. And the second problem, if there is a story, is the structure. So if you're spending time on the art, then I know where your mind has been. Your mind is in that picture, these pictures, but pictures aren't structure. So it's a really demanding form, screenwriting, so Just for me, when I write down to write a screenplay, I'm writing it for somebody who's bought a ticket and they're sitting in a theater, and here it is, right? It's 60 feet tall. And by the way, it's me in it. And that's not who you're writing for. You're writing for me when I was having a bad day, when I hated being a script reader, when I hated being a development guy, when I had to read one more fucking script, and you got to overcome all of that to make. So what that means is that your structure has to be right, your form has to be right, and if you have any art on it at all, it's almost, it doesn't even matter why. It's just that all you have to know is don't put your art on there. I have a long story about that. Would you like it? Okay.
Probably
not.
for afterwards, yeah.
Do it afterward. Okay, thank you very much.
Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Oh, good.
Hello, I'm Shasta the Otter, and I'm kind of glad that you're actually like a movie person, because I love movies. I didn't really expect you to.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So when you introduce your
Two otters,
species,
yeah.
they get together? How does that work?
Sometimes.
Sometimes? Okay. Well, I'm just trying to hook you guys up,
If you're lucky.
Did you see what I did there? Okay.
But
So I'm sorry.
that's fine. That's fine.
Notice how my status has fallen, by the way.
All right. Well, I mean, even though you're technically the movie guy, this will go to all three of you, I suppose. Like this year? I mean, you've talked about references to Titanic and Star Wars and stuff like that. But like from this year, what are a few of your favorite movies? And not just like, oh well, they made a movie about Facebook that didn't suck, or like, oh, How to Train Your Dragon was so cute. But like the movies like a movie you liked this year, what like worked for it? What did they do well that made you like that movie?
All right. I actually was thinking about this earlier.
yeah, I have an answer to start with too. So go.
My two favorite movie, if thinking from a screenplay perspective from the year, my two favorite movies are probably Scott Pilgrim and Easy A. And for very similar reasons, is you have very succinctly and well-defined characters that sort of like come at you like right from moment one. There's very little meandering. They tell the story that they need to tell very neatly and very engagingly. And really, with movies nowadays, like that's not something you can always take for granted. A lot of times, like he was talking about Kubrick earlier, where it's like, oh, like we're gonna do this with like the lighting and like the lenses and all that, and like a lot of filmmakers like to think of themselves as more like artistic than I want to sit down because I want to see a good movie. I don't necessarily the only people who care about your camera work are the other camera people in the audience a lot of the time. Not all the time. I mean, if you're using things like super, if you can change the medium, then by all means go ahead.
It doesn't replace story.
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't replace story. Okay. I think that those stories right there were they were elegant and they hit the mark of exactly what I wanted. When I finished I've actually seen both of those movies multiple times, and rewatching them, I'm just like, that was exactly as solid as I thought it was my first time through, if not more so.
Yeah, and of course, Easy A had the guy in the woodchuck outfit. So
yes, it did.
I'll confess that we've not quite gotten around to seeing the crop of Oscar candidate movies this year, so I cannot comment. I cannot comment on True Grit, which is supposed to be great. I cannot comment on The Social Network, which is supposed to be really good. What's the other one that everyone was telling us was really good? Black Swan.
Well, that's showing right over
have not
there,
seen yet, which is supposed to be really good.
If you're into lesbian sex, well, hey.
I'm not going to comment on that either.
It's better than that. It's better than that, but hey.
It is funny. We were just talking at dinner about how a lot of lesbians are into gay porn, but really not so much the other way around.
Yeah.
The movie that we did see this year...
That was a good dinner. Yeah. Yeah.
I think the movie that Kit and I saw this year that we liked the best, that we thought was the best structured and best put together, was Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And it's because it told a very familiar story. It's a story that you know the beats of. They put enough variations on it and a creative enough story with the right kind of humor, with great characters, snappy writing, and then the effects and the conceit of the movie just added to all of that. It was, I mean, the story itself was very basic, and they even spell it out right for you, right at the end, but that doesn't make it any less effective.
Your turn.
I haven't seen a movie since 1988. No, I actually haven't seen a movie this year in the theaters, I don't think.
Okay.
I have to say that, after you've read like 40,000 scripts and seen a billion movies, it's, you kind of, the first 30,000 were really fascinating. I did see a movie on Netflix recently called Wrist Cutters: A Love Story. Does anybody know that movie? Yeah. And, that's one I really liked. So I make a distinction between pre and post MTV, because MTV, fucked up all of you guys' minds. I'm sorry to tell you, there's a whole bunch of great movies that you'll hate, you're never going to like, because you have these nice, long, luxurious thoughts where you get to just sit and project into the movie, except your minds have nothing in them because you're used to CSI where it goes, it's the pen, right? And there's no new information. It's just all these cuts, right? It says, and then when you see a movie that doesn't have that, you're like, wow, that's boring. Except those are the great movies to me. So, you still have to have a good story. Anyway, I saw Wrist Cutters, which is I recommend to people. It's got all the plot points. It's this sort of negative of the world because it's about people who kill themselves, and it's a love story. And I don't want to give it away. Thank you. I almost did. But so that's what I got. I don't know.
Okay.
Does that help? It's an indie movie.
We're gonna try to accommodate all the questions that are left here, but we are running a little bit long on the episode, so we'll try to keep our.
And that's my fault.
We can go back to our lightning round mentality here.
Yeah. Lightning round. Ready? Go.
Hi. I'm Taran. I'm a Wolger.
Wow, you just opened up a whole other. You are not going to get away with.
Quite simply, I'm half wolf, half tiger. So I'll leave it at that. This question is
Wolger.
Thank you.
I'll direct this question a little bit more at Kyell. I've read a lot. My dad instilled in me at a young age a love of reading. It started out with simple stuff, and gradually grew more complicated. In all the books I've read, though, one book you wrote really, really hit home with the scene that you wrote about someone learning about a death that had a very close death to them. I'm wondering, really honestly, where you drew that from and how you transcribed that into writing and how you made it fit into a story about them learning something about themselves.
First of all, congratulations on how you phrased that question without giving anything away.
I was very careful about that because I don't want to give anything away to anybody who hasn't read any of his stories yet.
And also,
amazing.
Congratulations on coming up with a question that completely defeats the concept of lightning round, because I haven't.
I'm sorry, I've been thinking about this question ever since I walked in this room with you.
I will be fairly quick about it and just say that everything that you write about is drawn from some personal experience, whether it's something that happened to you or something that you read. And a good way to project onto something that has not happened to you is to take something that has and exaggerate it, and combine that with things that you've read or other experiences. Random weird fact. One of the 10 movies that I'm fairly sure everybody in this room has seen is The Lion King.
Definitely.
You may or may not remember the name of the actor who portrays young Simba. Jonathan Taylor Thomas, yes.
JTT, y'all.
He was in a scene in which something similar happens to young Simba. For all of you the two of you out there in the audience who have not seen it, he was trying to get out the tone of fear in his scream, and he said he couldn't do it because I don't know, single parent or something. He was much closer to his mother than to his father, and so they're like, well, to get this tone, imagine your father being killed. And he was like, I don't have that connection. They're like, okay. So they shifted it. They said, imagine your mother being killed. And that got to him. And that's where he pulls this scream out. And he said, and then it made him cry afterwards because he's 10 and,
Right.
Imagine your mother
Right.
being killed for profit.
Right.
Now all I can think of is you made baby Simba cry. It's like the baby Jesus for furries.
So, I mean, you take, you want the character to learn something about themselves, and what that says is you make choices, and sometimes those choices turn out badly. And for most of us, when we make a choice that turns out badly, we get to the movie theater 10 minutes late. If we're really unlucky, we get to the movie theater 2 hours late with a traffic ticket or a dented fender. But when you're writing a book, when you're writing a story, you need to exaggerate things. And so you say, okay, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen to them? And then when you go back and you're editing the revision, you say, how can I make that worse? Because that's where they learn, that's one way that they learn that they made the wrong choice or that they need to change what they're doing.
I mean, that's certainly a wonderful impact, and I can see exactly how you came to that now, and it's very effective.
Well, thank you.
See, Kyell, how come when I do that, people make fun of me?
So many answers.
That's not a lightning round question.
I know that's not a lightning round question either. Yeah.
Next.
Hi, I'm DJ. Well, my question
You
is
have
probably...
to say your species now,
Oh,
because
I'm
everyone's
sorry.
been doing it.
I'm a corgi.
See, and this introduces the whole...
I think we're related.
Technically, you're the same genus.
Okay.
Anyway, so my question is more toward the guest.
Dick, you can call me
Yeah,
Dick.
Dick. So, Dick,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry. So my question is about character development. I'm used to reading a lot of books where you have a couple hundred pages to develop the main character's backstory and reason for his actions and things such as that. But in movies, you have a fraction of the lines and the visuals to portray that. And my question is simply, how do you do that in such a minute amount of
So there's not
text?
much real estate in a movie script. That's what you're talking about, and there's a lot more in a novel. There's as much as you want in a novel.
Basically.
So one of the things I liked about teaching the class was that's a question that nobody answers in their screenwriting books. Mm-hmm. You know, all those screenwriting books that say how to write movies that sell and how to write movies that are character driven, and how they all should be entitled "How I Write a Movie." That's what everyone should name their movie book, because that's what they can tell you, and it's really hard to find someone who can like get above that and sort of talk about it in a generic way about what it. So what is? Here's what character development is to me. It's you take a character, you let me know what it is he believes. You let him know what it is he believes. You challenge those beliefs. Then you allow him to make a different choice of what to believe. So that's like really deep structure. Mm-hmm. That's like on the surface. What the effect of that is, what choice does he make? So we were talking about The Apartment earlier, and it's in the movies it's got to be really simple. We had another movie where I don't know something was on an aircraft carrier, and the explanation for MacGuffin was something like it was like a 6-page explanation, and the studio said, you got to tell me what the stakes are in one line. And, in one line, the audience has to know what's at stake and what's the worst that can happen. Did I mention writing's hard? So, So when we're talking about character development, one thing that's really helpful is the use of a symbol. And if you're looking at the movie The Apartment, the symbol is the key, which is an obvious symbol already. It's the key to his having a better life. And every time we see the key, there's a key to his apartment. And every time we see that key, the plot moves forward a little bit. And the plot, in this case, being he moves up within the corporate structure. And then finally he gets to a point where that key is the issue of whether or not he gets to keep his job. And he hands over the key. And you go, no, don't give the bad guy, Fred McMurray, the key. We hate him. And we hate what he did in that apartment. And then Jack Lemmon walks out and Fred McMurray says, hey, wait, this isn't the key to your apartment. This is the key to the executive washroom. Which means he's given up his job and he's keeping the key to his apartment and he's keeping his integrity. So what you have to find in a movie is that symbol that when he takes the action using that symbol, which you've established. So there's general sort of cultural symbols, and then there's symbols that you define within a story, what it means within that story. So you take one of those symbols, and the simpler the better, because it's easier because you don't have that much space. We're not writing Atlas Shrugged here. So does that help?
Not.
Yes, no, that helps a lot.
It's all about the action that the main character takes.
Okay.
And it's the action that tells us, the audience, not only that he's made the right choice, but that his life is going to be better, and it's going to continue to be better.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I just want to point out that The Apartment is one of these pre-MTV movies that I think
it's
everyone
really
should watch. It's a
is also
fantastic
awesome.
movie. It's a really good movie.
And Shirley MacLaine is so cute.
She's
We
adorable.
have time for the two people who are currently up there, and
I'm Vesper. I'm a tiger, and I am a painter. I don't write, but I've read a bit, and in my painting, there's what I do on the surface visually, what you immediately see, and then I always try and have some type of deeper meaning, or trying to express something. And with books, that's also the case. But how do you do that without hitting the readers over the head with the point that you're trying to get across?
You have to hit him over the head. What are we talking about?
Well,
you have to hit him over the head more in movies than in novels.
Yeah.
Because in movies they can't page back 50 pages to see what happened in the first chapter.
Yeah, when it comes to writing, it's admittedly an advanced technique to really do it well. It's definitely not something that if you're just starting out writing, you should try to immediately be a master of. I think you should first focus on being able to tell a good story before you start trying things like, I'm going to tell a story with this as sort of a double meaning. Would you
Well, I mean, I think it kind of goes back to the answer to the last question, where you're talking about the characters and the actions that they take. And when I'm writing a story, what I'm keeping in mind with the characters overall, over and above everything else, is in this story, the character has to learn to, he's been taught to question his instincts. He needs to learn to trust his instincts. And at every point in the plot where he has to make a decision, you have to figure out what stage is he at. At the first stage, he might think, I kind of want to do this, but then he does something else for that reason. But you never say, I think I want to handle it this way, but in the past my decisions have led to questionable results, so I think I will take the safe route that is recommended by this other person in this case. You just make the decision according to what the character learns and is experiencing. As they go through the book, you think, this just happened to him. He followed someone else's advice, and the thing that he wanted to do would have turned out better. So now this next time he's going to be doubting himself less. And eventually you get to the end of the book where he's confident enough to make his own choices, but you just watch the progression. But you have in the back of your mind that this is what he's learning, this is what his path is. And even though you never say it out loud, if you're doing it right, it comes across through that series of actions and choices.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Scribbles. I think the whole panel has we've already established that I'm the weekend fairy. So.
Yay!
Yay! You had the last
question-
question, so it had better be awesome.
Yeah, this question
Don't
is
fuck up,
for
Scribbles.
Dick, or the Dick, whatever you want to say.
Luckily, I am hearing as bad.
Does he get one of these?
I think he does.
I just recently graduated from film school, and my focus was
Which
on...
film school?
It was in Colorado.
Which film school?
The Colorado Film School. That's what it was called.
Do they have electricity in Colorado? I'm sorry, Scribbles. I'm so sorry. God,
And
it
of
feels
course,
so horrible.
obviously my focus was on writing and directing,
Yeah.
and a lot of the scripts I've read were just absolutely terrible. And it's like,
Why? Why?
I don't need to tell you.
No, you
know
tell
already.
me. Tell me what was terrible to you about them?
Because there was no character development.
No
Nothing
character.
happened in the story.
Okay.
And it's just like these, obviously these writers, they get stuck up in their story. They think it's so great, but it sucks. And they can't see that. And I've just wondered if you've had any students that have actually been exceptional in that, in that regard, and haven't
So here's
had
the deal.
shitty scripts.
Writers write, and most of my students don't. And that's why they're my students, because they think that if they take my class, they'll be sparked into writing, I don't know who you guys are. I'm one of those who don't, I'm a much better teacher, and I'm much better with your script than I am with my own. But, but I have mine and stuff. But, most people don't have the masochism that it takes to sit in front of a blank page day after day and just beat your head against it. One of the reasons why most scripts suck is because we have two languages going on. One is English, or whatever language you're writing in. It's words, the language of words. And the other is the language of film. And you've been to film school, so you know what I'm talking about, especially you had some directing classes.
Yeah.
And that's where you start learning what the language of film is. And the language it's a visual language that we're not trained in. Most people aren't trained in it. And so one of the reasons why most scripts suck is because they don't know how to speak that language. Most people think that movies are all about people talking, and movies are mostly about people not talking. In fact, the most important moment in most movies is a visual, not a verbal. So, what was the question? Help me.
Have you
Why do
ever
most
read
scripts
any
suck?
scripts that that stood out to you? That
Oh God, yes. of
you actually
course.
liked, that were written by students?
They were written by students. Well, if they were really that good, they wouldn't have been my student. No. I mean, what I mean by that is they came to learn how to do it. And the people who already knew how to do it and who were that good were, selling their scripts somewhere.
Why don't you?
But I what?
No, I was just going to say you said you read exceptional scripts. Why don't you, do you have a
Here's-
story
here's
about
what-
one that?
Here's what I see when I read things by students, and two of them are sitting here. Writers. I don't know, when did you take that class?
About like
18,
3?
20?
No,
Yeah.
yeah, around then.
Yeah, so it was 3 or 4 years ago, and what I remember about him is he's a good writer. That's why I have no idea what he wrote me, and that's what I knew about him too. Is that there's this sensibility about the writing. I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about you. Remember that lady?
The Beirut lady?
Yeah, the Beirut lady.
Oh, her.
Yeah,
Whatever.
okay.
Yeah.
So, so there's people who have it and there's people who don't, And
she just didn't
Harlan Ellison was one of anybody. Harlan Ellison here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate Harlan Ellison.
I think she also
Yeah.
just didn't have a sensibility about how the class was supposed to work, too.
No, well, she didn't have any sensibility. She was all about her, you
Right.
know. She wanted an audience, and have I read extraordinary writers? So then there's two other sort of answers to that. One is there's the people who are extraordinary line by line writers. These are Twitter writers. And good thing Twitter got invented so that they have some place to go write that that one sentence that's brilliant. And there's a guy at work who does that, and he keeps wanting me to read this little Twitter sentence. I finally wrote back to him. I said, when are you going to put a bunch of these together and give me a story? Give me an actual story. So there's brilliant line-by-line writers, but if you look at Robert Ludlum, anybody know who Robert Ludlum is?
Mm-hmm.
The Born Identity and all those things. Line by line, he's dreadful. He's awful. But these plots that he comes up with are really, really, deep and fascinating. And also anyway. He's got a mill of people who he sketches out. I don't know if he's still even writing or not, but when I was in New York and working for the publishers, that's what he did. He'd sketch out a plot, and then these other people would sort of fill in the blanks. Then the editor would come in and try to make it a cohesive thing. There's good writers out there. What they really need, what a good screenwriter needs, is a director who can take their vision into the visual language that writers don't necessarily know. That would be you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a director?
Yeah. Well, no.
Yes. No. Stop right there. Yeah. Yes is the right answer. Yes. Just say it. I want you to hear.
Yes.
I want to hear it though. Yeah, I'm a director. God damn it. Go ahead, say that.
Yes, I'm a director.
God damn it.
God damn it.
You know what?
Thank you.
I had forgotten that one of the things you made us do in the class is stand up and say, I am a writer.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
I treated my class like a 12-step meeting.
Yes.
So every time you raised your hand, you had to say, I'm Kyell and I'm a writer.
Except there was no forgiveness step.
Yeah. No. No man.
I don't know where that came from.
I don't either.
We are probably out of time. Kit is over here giving me the frantic hand waving.
Please stop.
Get
I have to
off
edit this.
right now sign.
Stop recording this 2 hours ago.
I want to point out the lovely artwork that we have up here on the table by the talented artist Raraki, R-A-R-A-K-I-E, on Fur Affinity, who made us these badges that we are sporting. She's beautiful. Go look at her FA page. I mean, her art's beautiful. I don't know what she looks like. I want to thank all of you guys for showing up here once again.
We hit standing room only tonight.
We always enjoy doing these live shows, and the fact that we get these audiences with amazing questions and the crowd energy and everything just keeps us going and makes us want to do more of them. We want to thank the folks that helped set up. Fradas the Fox over here, who is a frequent writer to the show and was the Shasta Cola consumer, I believe.
No, you're a coyote.
Stand up and do it in there. Quick shout out.
Hi, this is Fradas. I want to say that I enjoy listening to Unsheathed, and everyone who's listened to the show, keep writing in.
Yay!
Yay! And
especially you, Candrel.
And Jericho, wherever he is he still here?
Yep.
Oh, there he is. He's back there.
He's hiding.
Who was instrumental in helping our Tech Wolf get set up. Many, many thanks to our guest, Dick Power, the Coyote. Welcome
Very
to your
nice.
first furry experience.
Thank you. Yeah, this was a great experience. Thank you, guys.
He's no longer a furry virgin.
Remind us all just how insane we really are.
Yes. We really appreciate you coming in and telling us wonderful stories for this
Thanks for
this
having me.
event.
This was fun.
Many, many thanks, of course, as always, to Kit, who set all this up.
Yay, Kit.
Booked it with the convention, booked our guests, brought all the equipment, brought cupcakes, and continues to be the wolf behind the scenes who makes everything happen.
Well, yeah, without him, we'd just be a couple of schmucks talking into laptops with really bad audio, like back in episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, go listen to episode 2 if you want to know what our podcast would sound like without Kit's help. We're going to take that down soon, right?
I think it's already down.
Is it already?
Yeah, I think it's been Has it been archived off yet?
No, they haven't been
Wasn't
archived
it supposed to
off
have been archived off yet?
No.
Get on that, producer.
Do we have the audio DVDs for sale here? We do not. Okay. But you can buy them at future conventions. They have cool stuff like old episodes and us reading stories of ours and other
The lost episode of Anthropodcast?
The lost episode of Anthropodcast with Flane Falcon, who's in the audience right now.
I might be present.
He and he and I are both mourning the Atlanta Falcons loss for different reasons. Me because it screws up my Super Bowl picks from the live show we did in September or October, and Flame because he actually roots for them. So.
Oh God, I feel like a schmuck for that too. Because for the last 2 weeks, I'm like, dude, the Falcons are on fire. They're on fire. No one's gonna stop the Falcons, and they just got crushed. And I was like, okay, I guess the Falcons can be stopped.
Patriot fan.
We're gonna kick the Jets' ass tomorrow. It's gonna happen. Tune in 1 p.m. PST.
That's very Japanese hubris of you there.
I think that's Greek hubris, really.
Well, maybe.
In the classical sense.
You guys can find us as Unsheathed on FA, on what else? I thanked them already. I thanked them like 3 times. 4. Kit says we have to thank you guys again because we know that you had to sit in these chairs for an hour and a half, and there are so many more interesting things you could be doing at this convention than listening to us sit here, but we appreciate your presence. Write into the show and let us know what you think. Let us know what you want us to answer. And most importantly, whatever you do, just keep writing.
Very nice.